I never thought I would be here telling this story, but I need to vent to someone, and you guys on Reddit have always been my outlet. What happened to me in the last few months has completely changed my perspective on life and what really matters. I'm still processing everything, and I honestly don't know if I did the right thing, but here we are. My name is Lucas, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a systems analyst at a medium-sized company in Sao Paulo. I've always been the younger brother, the one who followed in his older sister's footsteps. My sister Marina was 32 years old and was everything I wanted to be when I grew up. She was a pediatrician, married to Roberto for 8 years, mother of 2 beautiful children, Pedro, 6, and Sofia, 4. She had this perfect life that I always envied a little. Marina was always the model daughter. She got the best grades, never gave our parents any trouble, entered medical school at 18, and graduated at the top of her class. Meanwhile, I was there trying to figure out what to do with my life, changing majors twice until I finally graduated in systems analysis at the age of 24. She was always patient with me, never judging me for my choices or my lack of direction. We lived in different cities. She lived in Campinas with her family, and I lived in Sao Paulo. We saw each other mainly on weekends and holidays at our parents' house. We were always close, but adult life naturally separated us. She had the responsibilities of being a mother and wife. I had my single life and my own problems. Everything started to change in March of this year. Marina started complaining of constant headaches and fatigue that wouldn't go away. At first, she thought it was just the stress of working at the hospital. You know how the medical routine is. But the pain got worse, and she started having episodes of nausea and dizziness. As a doctor, she knew something wasn't right. She underwent a series of tests, and the results were devastating. Brain tumor, glioblastoma multiforme. For those who don't know, it's one of the most aggressive types of brain cancer. The doctor was very straightforward with her, saying that even with treatment, the prognosis was not good. She would have between 6 months and a year to live if she was lucky. I remember the day she told me. It was a Saturday morning, and she called me asking me to go to Campinas urgently. I thought it was an emergency with the children or something. When I got there, she was in the kitchen drinking coffee as if it were any normal day. Roberto was playing with the children in the living room, and everything seemed too normal for what was to come. She told me everything very calmly, very technically, as if she were talking about a patient's case. She explained about the tumor, the treatment options, and the prognosis. I was in shock. I couldn't process the information. My sister, who had always been the stronger of the two of us, was telling me that she was going to die. The first few months were an emotional roller coaster. Marina decided to undergo treatment, more out of hope than any real expectation of a cure. She had surgery to remove as much of the tumor as possible, then chemotherapy and radiotherapy. I tried to be present as much as possible. I went to Campinas every week. I stayed with the children to give Roberto a break. The treatment was brutal. Marina, who had always been this energetic and lively person, was slowly wasting away. She lost her hair, lost a lot of weight, and became weaker. But the worst part of all was seeing how she tried to maintain normality for the children. They knew that their mother was sick, but they didn't understand the gravity of the situation. In August, the doctors confirmed what we all knew deep down. The treatment wasn't working. The tumor had grown again and spread. Marina had a maximum of 2 months to live. That's when she made the decision to stop treatment and focus on enjoying the time she had left with her family. It was at that time that she started talking about what would be left behind when she left. She was worried about the children, Roberto, and our parents. But there was something more specific that she wanted to talk to me about. She said she had a special request for me, but that she needed time to think about how to approach the subject. This request came at the end of September. I was spending the weekend in Campinas, and the children were already asleep. Roberto had gone out to buy medicine, and it was just me and her in the living room. She was on the couch, covered with a blanket, much thinner than I would have liked to see. But her eyes still had that determined sparkle that I had known since I was a child. She told me that she had thought a lot about the children's future and that she had a proposal for me. She wanted me to move to Campinas and help Roberto raise Pedro and Sofia, not as a stepfather, but as a present uncle, as an additional father figure in their lives. I was confused. I asked her why she thought Roberto would need my help. He was an excellent father, always very present. She explained to me that it was not a question of ability, but of emotional support. She knew that Roberto would be devastated by her loss, and that he would need time to rebuild himself emotionally. In the meantime, the children would need stability and a male presence. In addition, she was afraid that Roberto, in the midst of mourning, would not be able to give the children all the memories of her that they deserved to have. She wanted me to be that bridge, to tell stories about her, to keep their mother's memory alive. The request took me completely by surprise. I was building my life in Sao Paulo. I had my job, my friends, and I was even starting to have a serious relationship with someone. Moving to Campinas would mean giving up all of that to take on a responsibility that I wasn't sure I was ready for. Marina noticed my hesitation and said she understood if I couldn't do it. She didn't want me to feel obligated, but she also told me something that had been going around in my head for weeks. She said that I had always been an incredible person, but that maybe I needed a bigger purpose in life. That maybe taking care of the children could give me the direction I had always been looking for. I asked for some time to think about it. I talked to some close friends, our parents, and even Roberto. They all told me that the decision had to be mine, but that they would support whatever choice I made. During this time, I spent a lot more time with Pedro and Sofia. I started to notice things that I hadn't noticed before. How Pedro had the same curious way as Marina of asking questions about everything. How Sofia had the same mischievous smile as her. How smart and funny and affectionate they both were. I also noticed how Roberto was trying to keep everything under control. He was being strong for the children, for Marina, for everyone. But I saw the same despair in his eyes that I felt. The difference is that he didn't have the luxury of showing that despair. Marina died on October 15th. It was in the hospital, surrounded by her family. She was sedated for the last few days, so we didn't have a final conversation about the request she had made. But somehow, I already knew what my answer would be. The funeral was devastating. Watching those two little children trying to understand why their mommy wasn't coming home was one of the hardest things I've ever witnessed. Pedro tried to be strong, comforting Sofia when she cried. Sofia kept asking when her mommy was going to wake up. In the days following the funeral, the house was full of relatives and friends offering support. But I knew that eventually everyone would leave and Roberto would be left alone with the children and his own grief. That was when I made the decision. I talked to Roberto and told him that I wanted to accept Marina's request. He was surprised and moved. He said it would be an honor to have my help, but that he didn't want me to do it out of obligation or pity. I explained to him that it wasn't pity. It was love. Love for my sister, love for the children, and also a need on my part to do something meaningful with my life. He understood and accepted. I talked to my boss about the possibility of working remotely. Fortunately, my area allows this, and the company was understanding about the situation. I managed to reach an agreement to work 3 days a week in the office in Sao Paulo and 2 days at home in Campinas. The move happened in November. I sold my apartment in Sao Paulo and bought a small house in Campinas, about 10 minutes from Roberto's house. I didn't want to live in the same house as them because I thought it would be important to maintain some boundaries and give Roberto space to create his own routine with the children. The first few months were a period of adjustment for everyone. The children were dealing with the loss of their mother and still trying to understand what exactly my role in their lives was. Roberto was navigating the pain of grief and the need to maintain normalcy for his children. And I was learning to be a constant presence in the lives of 2 small children. It wasn't easy. There were days when I doubted whether I had made the right decision. There were nights when I lay awake wondering if I was really ready for that responsibility. There were times when I missed my old life, the freedom I had, the simplicity of only having to worry about myself. But there were also magical moments, like when Pedro asked me if I could teach him how to ride a bike, just like Marina had promised to do. Like when Sophia called me Uncle Lulu for the first time. Like when Roberto told me he didn't know what he would do without my help. I started to establish a routine with the children. I picked them up from school twice a week, took them to the park, helped them with their homework. On the weekends, I organized activities for us all to do together. I took them to the movies, the zoo, amusement parks. I tried to create happy memories for them. But perhaps the most important part of what I did was tell stories about Marina. I told them about her childhood, about what she was like as a child, about the mischief we got up to together. I told them about how happy she was when she found out she was going to be a mother, about how proud she was when they did something new. The children loved these stories. They asked millions of questions about their mother, and I tried to answer them all with honesty and affection. I realized that these conversations were a way to keep Marina alive in their memories and also to help them process the loss. Over time, things started to settle down. Roberto started to open up more to the possibility of being happy again. He started to talk about Marina more naturally without the sharp pain that I saw in the first few months. The children started to accept the new reality of the family and to see me as a natural part of their daily lives. I started to change too. I realized that Marina was right about me needing a greater purpose. Taking care of the children, even partially, gave me a sense of meaning that I had never experienced before. I started to understand what she meant about finding direction in life. It wasn't just about the children. I started to connect more with the community in Campinas. I made new friends, got involved in local activities, and even started volunteering at an NGO that helps underprivileged children. My life became richer and more purposeful. Of course, there were sacrifices. My relationship in Sao Paulo didn't survive the move. Some friends naturally drifted away due to the distance. My career didn't grow as much as it could have if I had stayed in Sao Paulo. But none of these sacrifices seemed greater than what I gained. Today, almost 8 months after Marina's death, I can say that accepting her proposal was the best decision I've ever made in my life. Not because it was easy, but because it was meaningful. I found a purpose that goes beyond myself. Pedro is doing well at school. He takes soccer lessons and is learning to deal with his emotions in a healthier way. Sophia is more talkative and playful, and she no longer asks when her mother will be back. She understood, in her own way, that her mother is in a special place but continues to take care of her from afar. Roberto is dating a really nice person he met at work. She is a nurse and has a daughter Sophia's age. They are taking things slowly, but I can see that he is truly happy for the first time since Marina died. The children love her and her daughter, and they are starting to form a new family structure. And I discovered that I can be happy in a way I never imagined. It is not the happiness I thought I wanted, based on personal achievements and total independence. It's a happiness based on connection, on making a difference in the lives of people I love, on honoring the memory of someone who meant everything to me. There are still hard days. There are times when I miss Marina deeply. There are situations when I feel lost about how to deal with certain issues with the children. There are times when I wonder what my life would have been like if she hadn't died, if I hadn't made that choice. But most days I feel grateful. Grateful for having had a sister who knew me better than I knew myself. Grateful that she trusted me to take care of the most important people in her life. Grateful for the children who taught me that love can take many different forms. Grateful for Roberto who accepted me as part of his family. Grateful for having found a purpose that gives meaning to everything. Last week, Pedro asked me if I'll always be around. I said yes, that I'll always be his uncle, and that I'll always be available when he needs me. He smiled and said he was sure his mother was happy knowing I was taking care of him and Sophia. I think he was right. I think Marina is happy wherever she is. She always knew I had the potential to be more than I believed. She always saw qualities in me that I didn't. And somehow, even after she died, she managed to give me the push I needed to become the person she always believed I could be. My sister's last wish truly changed my life forever. Not in the way I expected my life to change, but in the way she needed it to change. I went from being just the younger brother who followed in her footsteps to someone who was creating his own path, guided by the values she taught me. If I could talk to her today, I would say thank you. Thank you for knowing me so well. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discover who I really am. Thank you for teaching me that life is not about what we get for ourselves, but about what we can give to the people we love. This is my story. It is still being written. There are still many chapters to go. But now I know that it is being written with purpose, with love, and with the certainty that I am doing exactly what I am supposed to be doing. To those who have made it this far, thank you for reading. Sometimes we need to tell our story to better understand what it means. And sometimes we need to remember that the hardest requests to accept may be exactly the ones we need to accept the most. Life is strange sometimes. We think we know where we are going, but in the end it is the people we love who show us the true path. My sister did that for me one last time, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the trust she placed in me.